Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. My name is Daniel Cott. I'm delighted to be joined by a sort of half-suave looking Keith Jackson.
Yeah, and at this point in the proceedings, Dan, an explanation is probably necessary. As you can see, I'm running about trying to get dressed. You're actually looking quite smart, even though you've gone for the greys. You've gone for the greys shirt. That's nice. Would you like to explain to people why Hotline Live is not really live for the first time?
Well, I mean, we are. It's the Scottish Press Awards tonight. You're nominated, Keith, in a couple of categories. I'm not, so that's a bit raging. But I've still managed to get an invite somehow.
Yeah, in your John Terry capacity. That's good.
We should probably take this chance to say we're also joined by the gruesome twosome all the way from Hampden, Scott McDermott and Michael Gannon, guys.
Some of the plebs just need to work tonight, know what I mean?
I've got the Rat Pack. Listen, this is in the Rat Race. We're having to go and do a graft. Or use run the Swally.
Well, there's always next year, boys.
Maybe next year.
Aye, I'm still looking for an invite, Scott. Exactly. It must have got lost in the post.
But that's why Hotline Live isn't actually live tonight. You can still send in your comments, your questions. We'll get to them. But as I say, at 6 p.m. we'll be elsewhere. But as I say, we're joined by the guys from Hampden. Scottish Cup final fever starting to take over. You're there for the pre-match pressers today, guys. Neil Lennon and Martin O'Neill.
Aye.
As Scottish Cup final fever.
I think Scottish Cup fever might have been replacing the Scottish Premiership kind of illness that's still raging.
Work with me, guys. Work with me. Come on.
Aye, but no, listen. It's a kind of very romantic final, isn't it? Really, you get Martin O'Neill against Neil Lennon. I think we got to the quarter-final semi. You could see it coming into view. This kind of final matchup. Potentially Martin O'Neill's final game in charge of Celtic, and Neil Lennon. He's obviously he's links going back. Leicester, Celtic. They're so close even today. I think Lennon still calls him Gaffer, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So it's a great little story. I mean, it looks like a kind of mismatch really on paper, doesn't it? Really, no. Celtic against Dunfermline. Dunfermline ran out of steam a wee bit in the championship promotion race. Celtic obviously a high from last week, maybe sobered up from Saturday's celebrations. Just it's a kind of romantic final. I think it's an interesting one.
It's a great story. I can tell you something. We're looking at the pitch, and it looks absolutely magnificent.
It looks
an absolute bowling green, which I suppose you could argue should suit or might suit Celtic better. But Mick's right, a great story. Obviously Neil Lennon, big underdog, Dunfermline. Nobody will be fancying them getting into this game. Celtic going for the double, but I think we've said many times on here when Dunfermline were going through the cup stages and even in the league campaign, you never write a Neil Lennon team off. As I say, there'll be a massive price to go and cause a shock, but I'm a great admirer of Neil Lennon as a manager. I just think his teams, especially in one-off occasions, he's capable of coming up with a plan and a strategy and putting a team together, to make it really awkward for opponents who are usually higher up the food chain than them. So I certainly wouldn't rule him out. But listen, Mick, in terms of the occasion, Martin O'Neill v Neil Lennon, you just couldn't have scripted it. If you'd have said that to somebody at the start of the Scottish Cup campaign, you'd have get carted away with the guys in the white suits.
But it's typical with this season, isn't it? Of all the things that are too stupid to think could possibly come true, you've got Martin O'Neill there, the master versus the apprentice at the end of the season for the Scottish Cup. I mean, I don't know about you boys, but I think I'm going to say we've been in this movie. We've never been in a movie like season 25, 26. Where we have been is at the end of the season. I remember Rangers had a couple against Falkirk and Dundee. They knocked 1-0. I remember Celtic versus Dunfermline. Was it Doumbé scored the only goal of the game? Celtic versus Airdrie way back in Tommy Burns' time. When you look on paper and you think, given ordinary circumstances, there's only going to be one winner. And yes, the team that you expected to win has won them in these occasions, but only just. And it's been long and uncomfortable afternoons. Do you think there's any prospect of that, or do you think Celtic with their tails up, even despite the celebrations that have been going on since the weekend, should just have way too much.
But even in those games, Jacko, you're right. I mean, a lot of those games were tight when you didn't expect them to be. But none of them had the situation here where you could argue no one knows Martin O'Neill and his tactics better than.
That's true.
I mean, he's perfectly placed. Perfectly placed. I mean, he will know if there's one guy or one manager who will know Martin O'Neill's thought process going into these games, it's Neil Lennon. So that makes me think. I'm not saying Dunfermline are going to pull off a shot. I still think Celtic are going to. It should be too strong for them with the players they've got. Dunfermline have had a lot of games recently, even though they've now had a wee break up to the final. But in terms of coming up with a plan to make it really awkward for Celtic, and to stop them playing and to stop them getting into their rhythm, as well as causing them a problem at the other end of the pitch, I think Neil Lennon's he's definitely the guy to do that. So I think that alone gives Dunfermline a chance.
Do you not think, Scott, as well, see this season, the many times you sat this season with your laptop and watched in front of you and thought, what the feck is happening in front of me? I mean, I'm talking right back to the start of the season, managers, meltdowns, European exits, you get McTominay overhead kicks at that end of the ground, when your jaw's on the floor, halfway line goals, all the way up to up until last weekend. There's been 1,000,001 what the feck moments in your laptop. You think, is there going to be another one this weekend?
I said to you,
I'm ready for anything, by the way.
I said to you the other day, it genuinely, and I mean this, it genuinely feels like every game of football I've been at this season, there's been drama in it. There's been a drama at the end of the game. No, there's never. You remember sitting just having a bog standard 3-0 win where you get your intro written by half time and everybody's happy. It just hasn't happened.
Never.
I mean, it's the stories this season. Even up to, I mean, we were laughing last week. Me and Andy went to the Rangers Hibs game in the midweek, which was meant to be a complete dead rubber. And I said to Andy in the press room before the game, this is like 2 hours before kick-off, I says, this is just too calm. No, there's nothing on this game. Something's going to happen tonight that just shouldn't happen. And within an hour, you James Tavernier basically walking out the ground in a huff after arguing with the manager. He's been left out. Then we got to the press box thinking Tavernier's left the building. Then he walks out onto the pitch and gets a standing ovation. It was just absolute chaos, and that was a dead rubber.
That was a game that didn't mean anything because all the attention was at Fir Park and Tynecastle.
Well, who knows what's going to happen?
I think you've got to factor in the 25-26 wheel of madness that could spin and land on something unpredictable again.
Yeah, and you mentioned there, Mick, that Keith mentioned that the Doumbia game was Neil Lennon's last for Celtic against Dunfermline, and he only scored 3 goals for Celtic, and one was against Dunfermline. So
did he not get subbed that day or something like
that? He gets subbed off by Gordon Strachan, Mick, and he almost walked out the stadium with strip on because of it, raging. And then in the subsequent days after that, I actually flew over to Portugal because he was on holiday there, and I got the interview with him where he talked about it and how raging he had been at getting taken off. I think he'd calmed down after 2 or 3 days. But yeah, I mean, that was an extraordinary moment in itself. I just think it's as we've kind of touched on it, but I don't think we've quite got a real grip on how surreal this is going to feel when Neil Lennon walks Dunfermline out onto that pitch and Martin O'Neill is the guy standing in the opposite dugout. It is crazy. There'll never be another season like this.
To be honest, Jacko, there's been times this season when you're sitting at a press conference and Martin O'Neill watching the dugout, I think that I still can't believe this is actually happening. I spoke to Martin O'Neill probably last spring when he's doing his kind of speaking tour and all that stuff. I've done a wee bit with him. And if he said to me then, oh, by the way, in about 5 months' time, you're going to come back as interim, then in another 7 months, you're going to be lifting the league title. Generally, you've been carted away. And
then going for a double.
And go for a potential double. I mean, it's an extraordinary season.
I don't know if you'll remember this, Mick, but you and I did a podcast with Martin O'Neill. It was Remembering Seville. And I remember I said to him at the time, Ange Postecoglou was still in charge. And I said, look, if something happened, if Ange was tempted away, could you be tempted? And he said, Daniel, get real. Get real. I mean, he wouldn't have thought it in his wildest dreams.
And now here we are.
If he wins double on Saturday, the question is going to be: is he going to stay on? That's going to be the question. And I think that maybe that's not quite the question. I think the question is going to be: should Martin O'Neill get to decide whether or not he stays on? If he'd have a double, it should be in his hands. I think if he wins a double, you've got to give him the right to say, "But you've got first dibs, Martin." Yeah. I mean, we're all kind of assuming he's going to walk off at sunset, and I think he probably should walk off at sunset because we're going to get.
He's fudged the issue when he's been asked about it. He's been very careful not to overcommit to one or the other. It looks to me like he's keeping his own options open a little bit.
Very much so. I mean, I tried to kind of force the issue a wee bit after the game. We did a wee bit with them after the press conference. We did a wee bit from the daily papers. Try to kind of push him on a wee bit. And he kept saying the phrase, I mean, if they asked me tomorrow, I'd say no because I'm shattered and all that stuff. And I said, well, there's a key phrase there was, if they ask you. Have they asked you? And what happens if they do ask you? And he just kind of fudged it. Oh, I'm too tired today. You know, then I'm like, well, but next week. Well. He just keeps dodging issues.
It's a classic case of football obsessive, isn't it? Football manager just getting a wee taste of it, and they just can't let it go. Even at 74, everything Martin O'Neill's done in the game, you'd think, right, what a way to go. I mean, that's now finally step aside, but he wants to have a wee taste of success. He's been back in the dugout, the adulation. It's hard to walk away from it. And
he said Scott's given him a new lease of life at his age. And you can see that. You know, I don't think he really wanted to step away from the thing the first time around. I thought you could hear and see that in his words and in his actions before Wilfred announced his appointment. I don't know if he just knew how badly things were likely to go, or if he just. I just think he'd caught the bug again, and he had to step aside, if you remember, from a cup final. Now, I just felt that was wrong, and so there is a bit of symmetry here that if this is the end, it's back at Hampden, it's a cup final. I think he deserves this moment, but I think you're right, Mick. The bigger question is, does he deserve now a more extended shot at it, one more season at least? I think we might get the answer to that after the game, funnily enough. I think we might get the answer.
I think he deserves to make that decision himself. I think you've got to... Listen, if you had an interim manager in those circumstances in January and you got a double, the guy would be getting the job. So the only thing that stopped him getting the job is his age and whether he fancies it or not. That's the only two things.
I know you guys need to go in a second, but the fact that Jens Berthel Askou is apparently close to becoming Toulouse manager, do you think that affects it at all?
I don't think. Listen, I know the name's been bouncing about, and I know how do you feel. I think representatives from his end have been pushing it towards Celtic a lot. Listen, he's been at Parkhead more than some of the one. More than Ballockwisher this season.
More than
he's had a season ticket in there. So I suspect I know for a fact that he really fancied the Celtic job, but at this point in time it hasn't been asked. I don't think he's going to wait forever. I just think after a year at Motherwell, it's still a big risk. I think his team played great football. You can see what he's doing on the pitch. It looks exciting, and there is a chance that people might regret not going from now because he might end up being in this outstanding manager they can't get anyway. But I just think going from that environment into the Celtic environment, where the pressures, the European football, the big massive turnover in the summer that's going to come, I think it's a big leap for him at this stage. You look at Celtic's recruitment needs to be sorted, the directors of football, and all these kind of things that are bigger issues. It's hard for a rookie manager to deal with that. Martin O'Neill has shown he can manage the squad and manage, like what Roy Keane said, up the way. Yep. He can handle the kind of fractured boardroom politics. It's a big ask for somebody like Askou at that stage in his career to handle all that stuff. I think Celtic need a safer pair of hands rather than a kind of gamble, a bit like, I'm not saying it's like nonsense, but it's a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, I think I have to say, Mick, I kind of look at Askou, I look at what he's done at Motherwell with players that we know don't cost the earth, and I can't help but wonder what that looks like if you multiply his budget by God knows how much, raise the standard of player, and if he could get Celtic, I think it would be. I thought it could be comparable to what Big Ange did. I'm surprised that there's not been maybe there has. But there's nothing to suggest to me that there's been a full conversation with him. I thought Celtic might want to do that before just allowing him to saunter off to French football.
No, I take the point. I totally understand the argument for him. I think Motherwell have been terrific. I mean, they did kind of, towards the end of the season, they did kind of dip the notes. I think it was like 2 wins in 10, 11 at the end of the season. One of them was obviously at Ibrox, which was so impressive. But that last game against Celtic, you see the way they played; they were absolutely terrific. So I get it. I just think it's not. I don't doubt him as a coach. I think it's all the other stuff. I mean, Ange came in right. Well, it's a rebuild, but Ange came in with his best pal is one of the world's biggest super agents. Do you know what I mean? So he came in with a Rolodex of players that he could go and get. Do you know what I mean? And then that's the reality. And Celtic can't have fallen apart recruitment wise.
Yeah.
So they haven't got a strategy recruitment wise. They could really do a manager with that kind of buddy link with somebody going to kind of help them out.
They also had access to the City Group's database at that time as well, which I'm not sure if that's still open to them or not. Well,
that's how they got Ange in the first place.
Yeah.
But obviously Ange came in with his right hand man who had his own agency as well. So it opened up a couple of avenues they could go and dip into, and they had an extensive database. Whereas Celtic at this time, we've seen that the cupboards ran bare. So the recruitment has been so bad. You look at January window, will go down as one of the worst windows ever, and yet they've still won the title miraculously, having gone from there. But they're starting again in the summer. They need a lot of work. There's probably going to be guys like Dyson Maida leaving, Ernie Engels leaving. Still talking about Callum McGregor. It's not going anywhere. Plus all the loan guys and whatever wastage the guys don't want. So there's huge turnover coming. It's a big ask for an experienced manager. It's a huge ask for a guy who's not got that kind of background and that kind of experience in contacts book. So I don't know.
I don't disagree with a lot of that, but just on Jacko's point, I agree with Jacko slightly that I'm just surprised that Celtic. If Celtic need a new manager, I think Askou would have been in a short list of guys that they would want to speak to. No, I think that would be obvious. If Martin O'Neill was to walk away and they're starting from scratch, I just think the job Askow's done and he's on their doorstep, he would definitely be one that they'd want to speak to. So I'm slightly surprised that this Toulouse interest has obviously come up. Seems to have happened pretty quickly. I'm just slightly surprised that Celtic are allowing it to happen so easily. So
I'd want to at least explore the conversation, Scott. That's what if I was Celtic, I just want to sit him down in front of me, get a view for what he thinks Celtic require and how he would implement that. I would want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't feel that conversation has taken place. Maybe that points to Martin O'Neill's already your man for next year.
Yep.
I know you guys need to go very briefly. Predictions for the weekend. How's it going to go?
I think Celtic will win, Dan, but I don't think it will be a 3 or 4 goal job as some people might think. Like Jacko said earlier, I expect it to be tight. I expect Dunfermline to make it tough for them. So I think it could be 1-0 or 2-0 Celtic, but ultimately I think they'll probably win it.
I think remember the cup final was at Rangers Queen of the South.
Oh, aye.
4-3.
But it got a bit wacky because Rangers were also on their knees after the European exertions and all that stuff. I think you can see something similar to that. I think both teams could be probably feeling the effects of a long, hard season, which might make it a bit of a kind of wild and wacky one. So I think Celtic I could see like being a 4-2 or something like that, or 3-1. I can't see past Celtic win it. To be fair, I think they will get over the line. But I think it could be quite enjoyable. Listen, it'll probably be one each and go to the X time penalties and all that stuff. Yeah. A UFO land in the centre circle. Elvis will walk out.
Lennon subs himself on.
Pitch invasion before it finishes.
Aye. So I can write it now. Right?
Well, look, guys, whatever happens.
Well, the way it's going might not even blow full time. We're sitting here a week on Tuesday.
Well, that was the last game, Mick. That full time whistle hasn't gone yet.
Right. Smashing through deadlines again.
Well, look, guys, whatever happens, thanks for joining us on Hotline Live as ever. And we'll let you get on.
No worries.
Cheers, guys. So enjoy
Cheers,
it,
guys.
guys.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Bring it. Smuggle out a wee half for us for later on.
Aye, first drinks on us.
You just stand in the corner for the hotel, Mick. I'll come out and see you well.
Right, cheers, guys. The gruesome twosome, Keith. It's always good when you get Mick and Scott together.
Well, I mean, they're actually there because they're about. I think the managers are having their pre-cup final press conference at Hampden this afternoon. So the boys are obviously going to be speaking to Martin O'Neill and Neil Lennon, and this is where you start to paint the surreal. But everybody's mind has been other places, but now you're getting there. It's Thursday. you're just 24, 48 hours away from this cup final, and I think you can start to really concentrate on the sort of surreal nature of what we're about to see as the last chapter of an incredibly surreal season. So
you guys all answered my next question. There was going to be, look, do you think Celtic should step in here and at least hear what Askou thinks? It seems very strange that there's no real sign of that. It feels like Askou should be allowed to
not what we know, unless there was back channeling going on. You know, look, you heard Mick there. Do I believe for a single solitary second that if Celtic said that they wanted to have a conversation with Jens Berthel Askou, that he'd have said, "Nah, you're all right, I'm off to Toulouse"? I don't believe it. So, as Mick said, he's been in and around Celtic a lot. He knows the impact that he's made in this country. If the biggest job in the top flight was going to become available, I'm sure that Jens Berthel Askou would have wanted to be involved in the conversation. You can only conclude that he's halfway to France already. That's because that conversation simply hasn't taken place.
No. And look, I know my predictions, rightfully so, have been slaughtered, but I've said for a while, and so is Marzuno in the comments, that Martin O'Neill would probably be in charge next season. Would you be leaning towards that if Askou does go to Toulouse?
I think it's entirely down to Martin O'Neill, as Mick says there. I don't know if that's a great look for the Celtic board, that they will now be reliant on the energy levels of a 74-year-old who would turn 75 before the end of next season to say whether or not he wants to go again. I think there'll be some Celtic fans that, as much as they're grateful for Martin O'Neill for everything that he's done this season and the SOS that he's answered, would be hoping that the board might have a sort of more longer-ranging plan for what the future looks like than Martin O'Neill on a season-by-season basis. But as Mick says there, how could you say to the guy, "Yeah, thanks very much, off you pop now, Martin," give him a pat on the head and send him on his way if he's won a double? And Martin O'Neill has made such a success of this that he certainly has earned the right to have the conversation. And it probably does come down to, could you go again, Martin? Because if the Celtic board don't have a more contemporary, modern plan already in place for next season, and there's no real signs that that is the case at this minute in time, it might well be left to Martin to decide whether or not the energy levels are there to go again. I think you'd find it really hard to walk away for us, just as I think he found it really hard when he had to walk away to make room for Wilfred Nolsey. So I think there's a lot of soul searching to go on and some proper conversations. You would think that a lot of these conversations must have taken place before now, have to have done, because there has to be a forward planning, whatever the outcome. So I wonder if we might get our answer as soon as the ticker tape comes back down to earth on Saturday evening after the cup final.
If the Celtic hierarchy do have some grand master plan, they're hiding it very well. But we'll see.
It would be a bit of a first.
Aye, that's true.
The last wee while.
Just before we move on from that game, what's your prediction? Because I've got a feeling.
Graham? No,
your prediction for the game.
All right.
That's what I was saying, Dave. Come on. I think it's going to. I think I could see it going to extra time penalties. I really could.
I don't think it will be that uncomfortable for Celtic. Listen, even though the celebrations will have rightly been boisterous throughout the course of the week, I don't think they'll be overly excessive. Celtic won't go into this as fresh as they would like to for a game of such significance. But I think they've got more than enough. And I think in these games, the previous cup finals that I've kind of referred to, there was only ever really going to be one winner in any of them, but it was just a little bit stickier and a little bit more of a slog than they might have liked. I think we might get a day like that, whereas Scott said there, a 1-0 or a 2-0 Celtic, just enough to get the job done. And then Martin O'Neill can go away and lie down in a darkened room for a period of time before deciding, whether or not he might drop it after the cup lift, or if if he's prepared to sign up and go again.
Some way to go out if that is how he goes out with a double. No disrespect with this Celtic team. Someone, Keith, who will still be doing the celebrations, I suspect, is John McGinn. We talked about it in last night's show.
Man. I was pleased for him.
And not just, I mean, me too as well, obviously, outstanding, incredible. But see the goals Aston Villa scored?
It was sensational, wasn't it?
It's me.
I have to be honest, and I hope this isn't disparaging in any way, shape or form. I don't think they were up against much.
Aye, he did look at the depth.
Freiburg side really had very little about them.
It was a very routine win.
And it was just a matter of Villa had to get the first goal. And as soon as they got that first goal, the outcome of the contest was never really in any doubt. What a first goal by Toulouse. I mean, it was... and by the way, sometimes I point my finger, like a figure of fun at Austin McPhee, fresh from the sea. But listen, he's not there for no reason.
Aye.
He's highly rated at what he does. That set piece routine for the opening goal was, if that was straight off the training ground and you've no reason to think that it wasn't, that's just superb.
Aye, incredible.
It's one thing dreaming it up, it's another thing actually executing it. But players at that level, the volley for Toulouse was just sweet as a nut. And then the second goal, Buendia, I mean, he's just that reminded me of young Jacko. See that left foot earlier? I thought,
are you left-footed actually? Left-footed.
That was in my repertoire.
Right, okay. Buendia is a weird one because he went away on loan to Leverkusen and then came back, and I just think Unai Emery, I know it's the Europa League, but to win 5 of them, it's remarkable. And McGinn now, he joins the pantheon of Scottish captains to have captained a team to European glory. I mean, the fact that he's only the 9th kind of speaks volumes. And now that he's in the same conversation as Billy McNeil, Graham Souness, John Gregg, I mean, Billy Bremner, Willie Miller, I mean, that is pretty incredible.
It's listen, it's no more than he deserves.
Definitely.
And I'm genuinely thrilled for him. You'll not meet, trust me on this one, you just won't meet many guys at the top level of the game that are as down to earth and as nice and as decent as John McGinn is. And he deserves everything that's coming to him. And what's coming to him is Champions League football next season and a World Cup this summer. Mm-hmm. And he goes into the World Cup now as a European trophy winning captain. Now, as we kind of touched on last night, you've got Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmour, who, okay, not this season, but have only, they're celebrating a Scudetto this time last year. You've got Andy Robertson that's won the lot. This feels like a unit, a core of players that maybe this is the moment that their whole careers have been about, because they're not getting any younger. They'll probably get one more campaign. All of them together. I mean, McTominay more so and Billy Gilmour, obviously, and Ben Doak's younger again. But this actual core group of players, I think they've got this World Cup, and that's probably them arriving at their sort of collective peak. The next campaign, the Euros, well, who knows what to expect from there. But right now, in the here and the now, these guys are playing, operating at a level which we wouldn't have thought possible for a group of Scotland players 10 years ago. And that gives me genuine cause for excitement looking ahead to what's coming this summer.
I wonder if I just thought it was intriguing the last few games to see McGinn sort of playing off the right for Villa. Like, he was playing there a lot last night, and then we cut in, scored that phenomenal goal against Nottingham Forest off the right-hand side. I wonder if Steve Clarke might look at that and think maybe that could be where he could play.
Well, I said to you, look, I don't know what Steve Clarke will do. I think by the sounds of what he suggested the other day at the squad announcement, I think he's looking very seriously. It might have already made his mind up to go 4-4-2 in the first game against Haiti. Now, I think he wants Ben Doak in that starting 11.
Aye.
Ben Doak, you would think would be the option on the right-hand side. I think McGinn could go over to the other side and come in off the left and play as a tighter 3. I'd have Scott McTominay and of course I'd have Billy Gilmour Steve Clark will probably find somebody else, Kenny McLean or something. But that'd be my midfield, and I'd want the three being pretty tight, and it would give then license for Ben Doak to go and do what Ben Doak does. But you've also got McGinn's running power from the middle of the pitch as well.
Aye.
And McTominay's late runs into the box. Shankland up top with another maybe I don't know, but I'm getting excited. And I know it's a few weeks away yet. But I think once the curtain comes down in the domestic season, I think all focus then shifts immediately to what's on the horizon in the States.
And well done again to John McGinn. 1 trophy down this summer, 1 to go. You never know. Is there anything else, Keith, that we should entertain our viewers with? I think that's about us, isn't it?
Well, we do have the playoff for Premier League promotion / relegation.
Absolutely. Good shout. Partick Thistle against St Mirren.
Yeah.
How do you see that going?
I worry for St Mirren, Dan.
Me too.
And I've been worrying about them for an extended period of time now. We saw at the season that Hibs went down that some teams get into a sort of death spiral and they just start plummeting. They can't pick up results anywhere. Now, I know St Mirren stopped the rot in the last couple of games of the top flights, but it was already too late by then. And I wonder, it's a bit of a gut punch to be dragged into this. Partick Thistle have been consistently turning in results and performances, haven't they?
I thought they looked good against Dunfermline in the second leg last week. Looked really good.
And they'll go into this with their tails up, which is the exact opposite of how St Mirren's players will be feeling. I know that Partick Thistle, they've had some near things. Maybe that adds a bit more pressure on them, but I don't really feel that. I think the team that's under the real significant pressure, St Mirren, and having struggled for so long over the course of this season. I mean, they've just been dropping like a stone since they won the League Cup at Hampden.
Aye.
I think they're going to have to try and post a good score in the first leg. Otherwise, I think the whole thing might become too much for them if it's in the balance going into the second leg.
I agree. The first leg is tonight at Firhill, and then obviously the rematch in Paisley is on Monday. So a big few days coming up for both clubs. I think that brings to the end of Thursday night's Hotline Live. Stroke Hotline pre-recorded. Thank you still for joining us. We massively appreciate it. We'll be back live in person, we promise, on Saturday in the aftermath of the Scottish Cup final. 6 p.m, Keith.
6 p.m, is that 6 p.m kickoff or okay? 6
p.m. kickoff for Hotline Live. We'll be back then, and we hope you can join us as well. Keith, it's always a pleasure.
I'll see you at the bar.
I'll see you soon now. Thank you very much for watching at home. Cheers.